This morning it is our great joy to welcome to our lectern our new Chair of Church Council, Winnie Fritz. Winnie is going to share with us just a little bit of information that shares how we did this last year in 2014. She wanted to be able to bring that information to you. We've just recently done our year-end wrap-up, and so we have some information for all of you to look at. Winnie?
Good morning. Beautiful day out there, isn't it? Most of you will recall that exactly a year ago, Jim Cochran, our past chair, led a planning retreat for a Saturday here at the church. Many of you recall those specific objectives that we all together decided to pursue. Yesterday, 70 members of the church, the chairs of committees and committee members participated in our second annual planning retreat, and we decided that we wanted to share some of the results at our 3 services this weekend. We'll begin with some slides. Now, appreciating these were used as discussion slides in some detail, so I'll describe what you're seeing as a setup to what the slides will look like, and then we'll go into some detail. Each of the slides you're going to see has 2012, 13, and 14. The right-hand side is 2014. And in our few moments today, I'm just going to focus on how we did last year. If at any time after the presentation, if you would like a copy, if you would like some more detail, please feel free to contact me or any of the council members. We had 5 goals last year. One of those related to extravagant generosity. Approximately 3 years ago, there was a book that the congregation read in which that book described the 5 characteristics of a fruitful congregation. And these are the goals that you will see as we go through them. Extravagant generosity, the thing that we decided to measure was to increase the number of pledging households. That we decided that we wanted to have about 480 pledging households, and as of last year, we had 451. So we had a target of 480, and we had 451. Next slide, please. We wanted to understand a little more about that. Obviously, pledging households is important. And to be clear, many of you in the congregation understand this already, but there are there are some members in our congregation that will simply say, I will faithfully give to the church, but understand I don't pledge to the church, I don't pledge to Wounded Warriors, I don't pledge to the Salvation Army. I simply don't do that as a part of my practice, but I do give faithfully. This we're talking about pledging. The second slide relates to increasing the number of people that, the dollars pledged, and our target was, or last year we had $683,000 pledged. This year there was an increase in the amount pledged, $689,000. Another caveat I would like us to know in the congregation is that certainly the council members all extend their thanks to all of you. We understand from the district that the typical church honors 75% of their pledges. And at this congregation, 93% honor their pledges. When people say, I pledge this amount, that 93% fulfill their pledges. And thank you all for, obviously, for keeping those commitments. If we look to the third slide, it's one final slide just about this about extravagant generosity. And this is a final slide as we close the books at the end of the year. How did expenses and income relate? Again, just focus on the far right. You're looking at 3 years, and I know you can't read the numbers, but if you look to the far right, the blue line, the blue bar, shows that we had $957,000 of income, and our expenses were $882,000. Again, our thanks to all the council chairpersons and to the many of you who sit here today who are active members in those committees who every day, every week, watched expenses in relationship to your activities. Now we'll move to goal number 2. That related to radical hospitality, if you will, and this was increasing membership. Our membership currently is 992 people. 992 people. And that does not count the 140 who we call constituents, people that are not members of our church or members of their church back in Minnesota or Michigan, but they are associates who faithfully attend our church, make commitments even up to pledges, and we call those constituents. In addition to 992 members, we have 140 constituents. I might also mention that this is a number, a fact that we wanted to look at as well as we look at how our membership changes was also not only the number of constituents and how many new members we're getting, but also how many funerals do we have each year, how many of our members pass, and we are averaging about 48 to 50 per year. Just for information for all of you, families that we need to support in their loss. Finally, we want to look then at attendance. This would be an attendance graph over 3 years. And obviously we see the swings, the springtime quarters. These are by quarters, and we see the springtime quarters, not a surprise to any of us who are here. Those are the highest attendance here in our congregations, and you see the low numbers. Those are the summertime numbers. So our average worship attendance on a weekend in the springtime is 693, and our average attendance in the summer is 322. A final thought then about radical hospitality or attendance. You'll see the top line, just following that trend line, that is last year alone, and that is number of visitors per week. And we thought, well, all right, but all of us bring families at Easter, and we sometimes bring families at Christmas and so forth. So what are the visitors that are with us that are a part of our Sun City West communities, Sun City Grand communities? And you'll see that is the bottom trend line of how many visitors we have per week from our local community. And that might range 3 to 6 per week who are with us from our local community. A third goal had to do with intentional faith development, how we each as individuals and as a congregation are growing in our faith. The goal that we set for ourselves last year was to increase our learning participation. How many of us are actually attending classes and learning opportunities, seminars held here at the church? We wanted to increase that by 10%. And the actual number of people we had coming to learning events last year was 675. 675 people attended learning events here at Shepherd of the Hill. Next slide, please. Questions came up as to, well, what kind of learning events are occurring here? And we're just scrolling through 2012, 2013, 2014, and we're going to focus on just 2014. Again, these were working slides from yesterday's retreat. And as we looked at the type of programs we had for education, there were those that had to do with religion, if you will, religious studies and the Bible studies, and there were those that had to do with health and welfare. Many of us come to some of those sponsored by Esther on understanding Medicare, what is the Affordable Care Act, what about Alzheimer's. And 25% of ours are religious and Bible studies, and 75% in health and welfare, for a total of 28. So we had 28 educational events with 695 people here. Goal 4 is risk-taking. We'll move off of those scrolling slides. We'll just got your attention on that one. Risk-taking mission and service. This was a way to look at how are we giving money to missions. Some of us in the congregation want to really focus on local only. Others will say, no, we can't forget the international, the issues like Imagine No Malaria. Others have national causes they want to support, and you may be able to see there's also a fourth category called mixed. Some funds we give to do things locally, internationally, nationally. And we wanted to see what was our total giving for 2014 to missions. Our total giving to missions from this congregation was $163,000. $163,029 that we gave last year to missions. 66% went locally, 1% went nationally, 22% went internationally, and 11% were mixed. The final goal had to do with passionate worship. We said in the goal setting, the council and committee members that met last year said, we want to have some passionate worship, some different experiences as we all worship together, and each month to try something different, and also to have a vision moment within the services at least once a month. As we all know, we have initiated in the last year the opportunity for communion to be offered in two ways. Individuals are invited to either remain at the seat and be served, and others said that they really preferred to come and participate by intention and be able to kneel at the altar and pray. We also know that every first Sunday we have the food drive and participate in donating to the food drive. Some will remember that we have sung the Lord's Prayer, other kinds of things we've done. So, though I recognize it's impossible to read all the words there, but we wanted to really take an inventory and see how we did based upon that commitment. So those are the 5 goals and ways that those activities were being measured. Those items were being discussed yesterday in considerable detail with the 70 people present. Some new suggestions for this year began to emerge as the group worked yesterday. Again, we wanted to immediately let you know what we were doing yesterday. There will be a large voice article that will come out to you that will describe some of the details of the meeting yesterday and things that were discussed. The detailed conversations will go to the council meeting this Wednesday for the chairman of all the council, of the committees, to discuss and make decisions about next steps. Certainly the way that you can participate is as you read the voice article, as you see me and members who serve on the council, please let us know your wishes, please give us feedback, and most of all, certainly pray for all of us to set the right goals for 2015 and for us to be successful. Thank you.
The scripture reading today is from the Gospel of John, the first chapter, and begins with the 43rd verse. The next day, Jesus wanted to go into Galilee, and he found Philip. Jesus said to him, "Follow me." Philip was from Bethsaida, the hometown of Andrew and Peter. Philip found Nathanael and said to him, "We have found the one Moses wrote about in the law and the prophets, Jesus, Joseph's son from Nazareth." Nathanael responded, "Can anything from Nazareth be good?" Philip said, "Come and see." Jesus saw Nathanael coming toward him and said about him, "Here is a genuine Israelite in whom there is no deceit." Nathanael asked him, "How do you know me?" Jesus answered, "Before Philip called you, I saw you under the fig tree." Nathanael replied, "Rabbi, you are God's son. You are King of Israel." Jesus answered, "Do you believe because I told you that I saw you under the fig tree? You will see greater things than these. I assure you that you will see the heaven open and God's angels going up to heaven and down to earth on the human one." This is the word of the Lord. The Lord's name be praised.
Will you pray with me, please? Let the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable in your sight, O God, my strength and my Redeemer. Amen. I have a confession to make today. I don't share it easily. But you should know that there has been a bit of tension in our house this past week. My daughter, who recently returned to school at Northern Arizona University, is fiercely proud of the fact that she is a native-born Oregonian. It's true, she was born at Good Samaritan Hospital in Portland, Oregon, and she is enormously proud of that fact. So this past Monday was particularly difficult in our house. My daughter was ardently proclaiming that nothing good could ever come out of Columbus, Ohio. My husband and I are dyed-in-the-wool Buckeyes and alums, and so, of course, we just adopted a wait-and-see attitude. 4220 says it all, doesn't it? The next morning, I got a text from Flagstaff. "I'm so sad." Nothing good could ever come out of Columbus, Ohio. Yeah, right. But you know, that is exactly what Nathanael says to Philip today in the gospel story. Did you notice that? When Philip says, "We found the one we've been waiting for. We have found the one from Nazareth. He is from Nazareth. He is Joseph's son." Nathanael very skeptically responds, "From Nazareth? You've got to be kidding me." Nothing good ever came out of Nazareth. To which Philip gently replies, "Well, come and see. Just come and see." In John's gospel, it says that John witnessed the Holy Spirit baptizing Jesus. John's gospel is different in a host of ways from the other three gospels that we find in the Bible. Our story today takes place the day after John didn't baptize Jesus. And it begins with the news that Jesus was heading up to Galilee, a wealthy, well-to-do region just north of Judea and Samaria. The Galilee was essentially the breadbasket of the Holy Line. of the Holy Land. And it's implied a few verses earlier in the story that John sent a few of his own disciples to shadow Jesus on his trip to Galilee, maybe just for verification of what John thought he saw during Jesus' baptism. Philip was already a follower of John, which meant that he was well-versed in scriptures and had the expectation of a coming Messiah. He was ready to follow, especially someone who was endorsed by his mentor, John the Baptist. So Philip, having found what he was looking for, and essentially what everyone was looking for in that time, wanted to share what he had found with others, and so he went to his friend Nathanael. Now, we all know what it's like when we want to share something with someone. I mean, we find something that impresses us and we want to share it with others, whether it's a brand new restaurant that we've experienced and it's just great, or a movie that we just saw, or a book that we're reading that just really grabs us. We want to share it with someone else, probably because we want them to have the same experience that we have had, an experience that is a mixture of joy and excitement. Philip goes to his friend Nathanael and blurts out, "We've found him, the one Moses wrote about in the law, the one the prophets wrote about. We've found him." I love Nathanael's reply. It's so human. I see so much of myself in Nathanael, and possibly maybe you do too. His eyes are wide open. He's not going to be taken in by anyone, especially his holy roller friend Philip. Nathanael is from Cana, which is a very short distance from Nazareth. He knows all about Nazareth. Maybe another way to understand Nathanael's response is to say that it's very similar to that of Ohioans toward West Virginians. My apologies to the brothers and sisters from West Virginia this morning. But you have to know that West Virginia jokes abound in Ohio, very much the same way that, North Dakota jokes abound in Minnesota, etc. Ohioans have a hard time believing that anything good could come out of West Virginia. They're kind of like Oregon Ducks in that respect. And of course, let me say emphatically from the pulpit this morning that everybody who thinks like that would be wrong. Nathanael, in his contempt prior to investigation stance, wants to dismiss Jesus before ever meeting him based on his own preconceptions about the people of Nazareth. What is unfortunate is that Nathanael provides us a model for our own time today. Because you see, there are so many Nathanaels and Natalies in our world, people who have never had an experience with God, or people who have had a bad religious experience, maybe having been involved in a church that was toxic in some form or some fashion. And so those folks tend to either blame God or they blame the church for their pain and for their experience. Cynicism is rampant in our culture today, and it is exacting a heavy price on all of us. What's even more unfortunate is that sometimes those of us in the church don't always know how to respond to the Nathanaels and the Natalies of this world in a helpful way. We church folk may take exception to people who profess no belief in Jesus, or who express derisive comments about those of us who do believe. It's not a productive approach, and nor is it one that Jesus would want us to make. It certainly wasn't the way that Jesus himself responded to Nathanael. My husband and I have a really good friend. Someone who for a time in his life said that he didn't believe and he didn't really want it to have anything to do with people who did. Somebody who maintained this position out of his own pain in his own life. Wasn't a decision, it was out of his experience. Events had transpired in our friend's life that led him to believe that if there was a God, that God really didn't care about him. And being reproached and chided by people who believed only cemented our friend's sense that he was right in what he didn't believe. If you looked up the word cynic in the dictionary, you would have seen a picture of our friend. But our friend had a Philip, or several Philips, in his life who came along at just the right time. It's Philip who shows us the approach that we need to take with the skeptics we encounter, especially if we invite someone to come to church with us. When Nathanael asked Philip, could anything good come out of Nazareth? Philip said to him ever so gently, come and see. Come and see for yourself. Come and check it out. Now, when we think about it, that's all that is asked of any of us, really. Come and see. Nathanael did, and in the story, Jesus actually did the rest. It wasn't all up to Philip. The rest of the story is about Jesus revealing to Nathanael that he, Jesus, is no ordinary person. And he does this by telling Nathanael that he knows more about him than he has the right to know. I know that you are a man without deceit, Nathanael. I've been watching you from the very beginning, when you used to go and sit under that fig tree to think and pray. I know who you are. I know what you're like. I know all about you. I've been watching you. And the story could end right there. Nathanael knows that Jesus is the real deal at this point, and Nathanael is actually ready to follow. But our gospel writer John includes something else in the story. John has something else to say, or rather, Jesus does. And Jesus says to Nathanael, well, do you believe in me just because I saw you under that fig tree? Because I said that I've been observing you for quite a while? Let me assure you, you're going to see greater things than this. You're going to experience greater things than my knowing all about you. The heavens are going to open up, and you're going to see angels going up and down to heaven and coming down to the earth. You're going to see great things, Nathanael. There won't be any more sitting under a fig tree for you. I have plans for you because I know you. And you're going to be with me, and you're going to see the kingdom of heaven at work in the world in real time, and you're going to be a part of it. Jesus was referencing Jacob's dream at Bethel when all he had for a pillow was a stone. Jacob dreamed of a ladder in which angels ascended and descended from heaven to earth. You might remember that story. And what Jesus was saying to Nathanael was that Nathanael could actually be witnessing this kind of cosmic connection between God's realm and the earthly realm if he came and followed Jesus. Ultimately, this is really the important part of the story. And it's why we're all here. Because you see, heaven is where love reigns, and where there is room for all of God's children at the table, and where, in the words of a friend of mine, nothing is broken and no one is missing. It's not at all what earth is like. We know what earth is like, and a glance through our morning papers tells it all. It shows everything that's going on in this world, and it tells us how this world of ours is so different from the realm of God. With all of the things that we struggle with, people struggling for food and shelter, political gridlock, global warming, all of those kinds of things. And yet, Jesus brings about the unexpected. And Nathanael sees that. And heaven gets a foothold on this earth. And as a result of one more disciple, one more person following our Lord, God's realm becomes even more of a reality. And Nathanael decides he's not going to sit under a fig tree any longer. Did you know that we as a congregation did not sit under a fig tree this last year? We did not. And the 70 people that Winnie Fritz spoke about over in our fellowship hall yesterday morning and throughout the afternoon bore witness to that fact. I want to share with you some of the accomplishments that we achieved in 2014. We were not sitting under fig trees. Are we ready with those slides, Craig? Thank you. We did something called TechU. We launched TechU, and that's an opportunity for anyone in our church who wants to know more about their computer or about their tablet or about their cell phone, their iPhone, their iPad. You can come on Mondays, and you can get all kinds of instruction about how to use that device. We launched a new service in November of this last year, a service that has a little bit more jazzy music and is a little differently structured. We launched that service in November. We also came up with something called a welcome to the neighborhood letter, and that's this. And it's got a letter opener in it, and it's got a letter so that if you see somebody moving into your neighborhood, you can walk up to that person and you can say, "Hey, welcome to the neighborhood. I'm so glad you're here. By the way, do you need any help getting rid of those boxes? We can help you with that. My church has got a recycling program. Here, let me give you some information about it. Here's a letter. It'll tell you the phone number to call, and if you'd like us to, we'll come and we'll pick up your boxes and haul them away for you." And then we also leave them with a letter opener with our name on it. We started a technology committee because we realized that technology and publicity and marketing and communications were all very different things. And we needed to figure out a way to update our technology and see what we needed and move in a direction to discern what we needed to do here on our campus. So we formed a technology committee. We have done a complete overhaul of our new member process, and we are reorganizing those classes. We've got new Shepherds coordinators. We've got those positions filled to assist our new members and help them become acclimated to our church. And we've also initiated a home caller program where people will go and visit folks in their homes to welcome them to our church. We've got new prayer and presence cards to replace the attendance pads. And there is a whole article that is coming out in The Voice this coming month that will tell you why we did that. We are actually hoping to be able to better track our membership. Those cards are designed around all of our membership vows, and there's a whole lot on them, which you can see as you look at it today. And then also, we are hoping very much to use those cards in such a way that we'll get even better information. Our office staff loves them. It helps them be able to work the attendance numbers in a better way, to track those, and also to track people who are missing from the congregation. There's a whole lot more to that, and you can read the article for yourself when it comes out in The Voice this month. We have our Help Wanted ads. That was something that we had talked about. Help Wanted ads are also included in our prayer and presence cards. We have new advertising. If you've gotten a Pora Insider, you will notice that we are in the Pora Insider, sharing our special services that are coming up. We're also advertising in the Sun City Grand Times. We've reorganized our prayer ministry now, and there's a place on your prayers and presence card where you can ask for prayers. We have a team of 25 people who get those prayers every week and begin immediately praying for you, for any prayer requests that you might give us. That allows us to truly make sure that we've got those prayer connections going and that they're strong. We have 3 retirement centers, Grandview, the Heritage, and Chaparral Winds, where the pastors are each taking a turn each month. We're rotating the retirement centers, and we are going out to those retirement centers, and we are offering communion to any of our folks who are there and to anybody else who would like to have communion. We've worked that out so that we can go and have one-on-one time with people who are in our retirement centers who may not be able to get here to church for communion. Last but not least, we're initiating new education classes. I started 2 actually this year, Holy Grounds Cafe, which is Bible study. We look at the scriptures that come up for every weekend, and we talk about those before the service actually comes that following weekend. And then there's also a class called Faith Links, where we're taking contemporary issues and conversations and having those in a Faith Links class. And there are other classes that are beginning as well. The grids that Winnie showed you this morning, we are really taking very, very seriously. And we have said, we want to be like Nathaniel. We want to follow Jesus, and we don't want to sit under a fig tree anymore. We're out there, and we're moving, and we're doing things. I love what Jim Wallace of Sojourners Magazine says about all of this. He says that in Jesus, God hits the streets. And Nathaniel, the skeptic, the one who sat under the fig tree, now a follower, however unlikely, will also walk that street with Jesus as well. The work that we've been doing in the last year is preparing us to reach the Nathaniels and the Natalies of this world. And so will all of the work that we do this year. Something good is coming out of Sun City West. And we're serious about reaching not only everybody who's already here, but also reaching Nathaniel and Natalie. I would invite you to get involved with the work of the council, to get involved with the work of a ministry team. Everybody can do something. Don't sit under the fig tree. Get up and follow. Come and see. Check it out. Get the 411, as some people say. It's so gentle. Come and see, and it's non-threatening. And by you doing that, you may then turn around and change someone else's life. You'd do it if it were a new restaurant or a new book or a movie, right? Tell yourself and tell others. Come and see. Amen.